All right. Well, welcome. I'm really glad to be here with all of you today because this is our very first group visit. And I want to start it out with a topic that is absolutely near and dear to my heart, which is how to create health. It's really been a question that has uh, obsessed my mind really for about the last 25 years. And I want to share that story with you and also help give you some clues to structure your life so that you can get the most out of your health and well-being. This is for group class, is our first group class of Maxwell Care. It's our new way of saying, how do we deliver the care, the support, and the information necessary for you to really cross the finish line? You know, we don't want you to have to depend on Dr. Google or a random web search. We really want to give you curated information that's going to enable you to maximize your wellness. So, um, if we I want to let you know that I'm going to put you on mute, but if you have a question, please type your question into the question and answer box. And if the event the internet goes down, you know, we're going to switch to a hotspot. So stay on for 5 to 10 minutes. We'll be right back. You know, internet does what internet does. And we really want to answer all your questions at the end. Okay. This is meant to be a dialogue. So I have a question for you. And I really want you to do this. Get a piece of paper. Get a piece of paper, pen, you know, think about this question for a second, okay? All right, you have your paper? All right. What disease do you want to die from and when? Seriously, what disease do you want to die from and when? Now, go ahead and write that down. You know, I've been known to tell people that tell me what you want to die from, and I'll tell you what to eat to get there. But um, let's ponder this for a question. What are we really after? When we start to ponder this question of like, well, and how do you want to enjoy that last year of your life? Do you want that last year of your life to have where you have good energy and you have a clear mind, where you have strength in your body and a will to discover and learn and to love? And isn't it remarkable when we start thinking about what do we want to die from? We realize, wow, I really want to live my life fully. I really want to um, enjoy my years. I want to figure out how to juice the most out of this time, and that is really what we're focusing on, because if we focus on disease, we fall trapped to this problem that the way we see the problem is the problem, because disease is not really the problem at all. The problem is an inability to create health at its fullest level. And that's what we're going to go into today, because then we can hopefully have the lifespan and the life quality that we desire. So, this is the way it is. Aging has a trajectory. We all know as we accumulate more birthdays, something happens. It first starts that on like the left-hand side, we see all these different biological abnormalities start to go on. Instability in our genome, our telomeres start to shrink. We start to lose our regulation of our gut microbiome or our ability to sense nutrients. We start having mitochondrial dysfunction, stem cell exhaustion, altered intracellular communication, all of these things that you're going like, what the heck is he talking about? But as long as that's kind of like the seed, and if that seed grows, we start getting physiologic dysregulation. And that means like the heart's not pumping as well as it should. The skin gets wrinkled. The lungs don't have its capacity. The mind becomes dull, and you know, motivation goes down. Memory starts to slip. And then we start being able to name these problems. And that's when they get called diseases. And if those diseases go on and progress, we have disability. And then that disability at some point in time leads on to death. And being mindful, this aging trajectory is very important because it's going to give us a lot of insight. Because the normal brain, as it moves on towards dementia, it's actually a process of unbraining. We literally lose the amount of tissue that is present. We see atrophy that happens. And the big question is, in this process of unbraining, what is the big question mark? What causes it? And here's the secret. It's not one big arrow. It is a lot of little arrows. Aging, degeneration, disability is a multifactorial process. And if we're going to prevent the degeneration and the disability and the loss of life fullness that we want through aging, we have to look broadly. So let me tell you how I perceive this whole health and where it came to be. I actually grew up on a farm in South Dakota. That is my family farm, taking an aerial photograph. And then came to Vanderbilt University School of Medicine to get my medical degree. On to Mayo Clinic for residency and practice. I became one of the first physicians board certified by the American Holistic Medical Association. I became a certified nutrition specialist. I was one of the first members of the Institute for Functional Medicine and in the first class of certified physicians. I founded Maxwell Clinic back in 2003. I became board certified in neurofeedback, board certified in integrative medicine with the first class again. And then recently I've been qualified as an apheresis specialist by the American Society for Apheresis. Now, why have I done all of these things? Because I have a very deep passion to fulfill this particular mission. And this mission of Maxwell Clinic is that we, as a clinic, that we discern and deliver what is wise and works to maximize wellness, one sacred seeking patient at a time. Now, to unpack that, it will take me another hour. But let me just say this, that phrase, what is wise and works, means that we need to do things that have the least likelihood for harm. Because in the United States, the third or fourth leading cause of disease are properly prescribed medications and physicians. And so our healthcare environment is dangerous. And we believe very strongly we need to exhaust less toxic and less potentially damaging therapies before we move on to those that have a higher potential for harm. And what are we doing? We're discerning and delivering these services for why? So that you can maximize wellness. What does maximum wellness mean to you? Maxwell is, for us, is that optimal state of body, mind, and spirit that best helps one fulfill their purpose, pursue their dreams, and enjoy the process. And we want to do this one sacred seeking patient at a time. We recognize that you as a human are an amazing, unique creation. There's nobody like you. There's nobody like you at all. And it is really a miracle that you exist. And it's an honor to get to serve those people who want help from trained medical healers. And those are patients. So we're excited to do that. So what is your definition of health? Was it to look better, to have no stress, to have no anxiety? Is it have a great sex, more strength and endurance? Or is it to matter, to be happy, to be safe? Everybody's definition of health is slightly different. As I mentioned, Maxwell, this is our definition of health. It's that optimal state of body, brain, and being that best enables the pursuit of your dreams, the fulfillment of your purposes, and the enjoyment of the process. Because it's so much more than just not being sick. There's a couple of different philosophies in medicine you need to understand to really kind of sort through information. I'm licensed as a medical doctor, and that comes from the field of allopathy or allopathic medicine. Allo means against, and pathic means disease. So in allopathic medicine, this is the way medicine would be practiced as a warrior. We use tools to cut, kill, inhibit, and block, stimulate, force. We're going against a disease process and fighting against it. It's a worthy and worthwhile process. And you understand this kind of fight mentality when you think of just the names of the medications. We have antifungals, beta blockers, inhibitors, anti-stimulants, asides, antagonists, inhibitors. As allopathic medicine, our job is to shut down some part of the body's function to hopefully compensate and hold back the flow of disease. But there's another way of looking at this rather than the role of the warrior, and that is a salutogenic philosophy. This is saluto means health and genic means creating. This is the way of the farmer. And this goes back to my roots in South Dakota. And I, sitting on a tractor, I had a lot of time to think about how do you make crops grow? Well, we know that the seed matters, but you can't do a lot about the seed. And we know that you're going to get a certain amount of rain and sun and wind, and you can't do much about those. But you can do a lot about how you cultivate that soil, how you protect that seed, the environment in which you nurture it. And that's the philosophy of salutogenesis. This is my grandpa and my dad out on shucking corn, harvesting one ear at a time and throwing it into the corn wagon. An incredible amount of work, but a huge amount of satisfaction of a job well done, because watching things grow and thrive is really pleasurable as a human. I think it's why most people are drawn into medicine. It's why I love it so much. So our philosophy at Maxwell is really to blend these two ideas, to take this idea of allopathy, opposing disease, and salutogenic medicine, the way of the warrior and the way of the farmer, and combining these to find what is wise and works for one sacred seeking patient at a time. So another way to understand this is that we all live on a health continuum. And this health continuum ranges from a point of maximum wellness, and anything less than that, we recognize as dysfunction. And that dysfunction may be so early as to be silent, only be able to be picked up via blood tests or physical examination or different evaluations of technology. But dysfunction begins. But that dysfunction is allowed to proceed. Now it becomes symptomatic: fatigue, aching, mental changes, etc. That goes on into degeneration. Degeneration causes disability, and finally proceeding on towards death. Now, if we put a timeline across the bottom of this idea, and we think about a hypothetical life curve, we can think of, instead of what is your lifespan, what is your health span? This is the health span most everybody would like. Let's come into the world, let's live and thrive in a state of maximum wellness, and then drop off the cliff at kind of year 100 or so, maybe 120. And I had one of my very favorite patients, David, and he came in and I asked him, David, what do you want to accomplish by working together? And he said, well, I would like to die on my 100th birthday at the hands of a jealous husband. I was like, that's a goal right there. A delightful human who has incredible idea of thriving. But unfortunately, all too many people have a health span curve that looks more like this, where slipping very early into silent dysfunction with maybe early diabetes, even as a teenager, going into symptomatic dysfunction with early depression and osteoarthritis or reflux in your 20s and 30s, and then having actual tissue degeneration, leaky gut, and advanced aging, advanced wrinkling, advanced, just a sped up degenerative process that all too quickly slides into a level of disability. And they can live in that zone of disability for many years. That is a really tragic way to miss out on the potential that I think each one of us have to thrive at a higher level. So our goal is to think about this spot on the curve and say, there's some symptoms here. You need to do something about what's going on. Let's dig in. Let's figure out, how do we change where you live on this curve? Let's go back up towards a dysfunction that is so mild it can only be measured with the most subtle tests, and into a space that's far closer to maximum wellness. These are my 8 steps to create health. and to help you conceptualize this, because I want you to apply these things in your own life now. First of all, you need to reimagine the desired state. That means if you don't believe that you can be better, then you're probably not going to. You need to imagine that this isn't the way it should be, that you can do better, that you could enjoy better longevity and more contribution that comes from that thriving in the world. And then this next is to reveal the present reality. Become examined. Examine yourself. Have somebody else examine you. Let's use laboratory tests and questions. Let's listen and dig into how did this start in the first place? The next thing is we're going to start discerning and delivering different tools to help move this forward. And one of the main things is to replenish regenerative supports, because the body is designed to heal. You cut your arm, it just knits itself back together. Pretty miraculous. And what do we need to do? We just have to give it good things or remove degenerative forces, toxins or traumatic molecules. And then we want to focus on retraining dysfunctional patterns in the body. These are ruts the body has gotten into. Oftentimes we do this with like allergy drops to reverse allergies, or neurofeedback to train the brain to become more able to be cognitively resilient and self-adaptive. And then we want to reboot when all else fails, because if the body has gotten so stuck, sometimes we need to do a lot of therapies, several different interventions in close succession to get the body out of that hump that it's in. And then we want to reassess the new reality. Say, hey, did that work? I'm fond of saying results are the only thing that matter. And we're a very outcomes-driven practice. So the only way we can know if something worked is to look at it objectively, often retest and re-understand, and then refine the process. If what was working is working, then how do we make it work better, or how do we keep it working? If something's not working, let's refine, let's reimagine a new desired state. Let's reveal more of the present reality. Let's replenish, remove, retrain, and reboot. This is the process by which your clinicians at Maxwell Clinic look at the world to figure out what is wise and works, to figure out among all of the different therapies and the way that you could change your life and the things you could bring in, the things you can remove, which is most likely to cause you the greatest benefit. Because each one of you are created uniquely. Each of you, there's nobody like you. And so when you're actually making changes to your health, you're running an experiment of one. Your life, as it regards health, is a long experiment of one. And our job as highly trained specialists is to help you decide what are the best, safest, most likely effective experiments to run on yourself so that you get the outcomes that you're looking for. Like I said, it's a lot of fun. So we can start taking a look at from data from many different directions to start revealing what's going on under the hood. We can do MRIs that measure the volume of different parts of the brain. We can do metabolic mapping to dive into all the underlying biochemistry. We can do neurocognitive testing to see how are you actually functioning at this time. We can do brain mapping and looking at electrical patterns and how do you deviate from a normative sample and how can we help you become more electrically efficient. Or we can do even whole genome analysis to dive deeply into what's the fundamental biochemistry that's running your genetics. And I see all of this as one. I love this. This is a Tensegrity stick figure man. And a tensegrity is really the simplest description of a complex dynamic system. I talked about it a little bit in my TED talk I did several years ago, but it's amazing to see how this just collection of dowel rods and rubber bands actually becomes a whole, becomes a structure of which none of the solid parts are even touching each other. And so we can make connections between your electricity, your physiology, your capacity, your genetics, and recognize it all is one person. You are one solid, and sometimes semi-solid individual. And this gives us an opportunity when we recognize it all fits together. As we look at this is a starburst chart of many of the individual factors that we investigate as people are struggling with dementia. And the stars indicate individual opportunity spots of abnormalities in various metabolic pathways, structural pathways, behavioral pathways. So we can measure a whole bunch. I think we should look broadly if we're trying to create health. And when we recognize that each pattern from each individual has a unique constellation, I call this the causation constellation. This constellation represents that one person. It represents your unique opportunity for intervention. And if we start to continue to dig in, we can recognize that each individual point, whether it's like decreased glutamate transporters or presenilin mutations or whatever it happens to be, every single point has multiple potential interventions. And then once we get to interventions, we think of an herb like curcumin. Each interventions have many effects on the system. There's a additional mapping. So how do you start understanding how to engage with a individual health challenge? It's beautiful. Health is a system, and our body is designed to heal. So there's many different ways to heal, and there's many different compounds and substances and behaviors that can help this move forward. And so our job, again, is to reimagine the desired state, to reveal what's going on currently, to replenish, remove, retrain, reboot, and then reassess, and refine. This is what's doing wise and works. These are some examples of regenerative substances and signals that could be replenished. Think of oxygen. Somebody that has sleep apnea at night is going to have a very hard time making energy. How about relationship? That's an important regenerative substance that actually has deep associations with all sorts of the most meaningful type of health. How about movement? Movement is a regenerative substance, and it's going to turn on all kinds of regenerative processes in the body. Nutrients, absolutely. We think of nutrients as raw materials, but nutrients are also signaling molecules. They give energy, and inside of food, they create an experience, and they're associated with a relationship. Amazing. So more good stuff. And on the bottom side, we see this red zone. And these are the degenerative substances and signals that we want to systematically identify and remove. And those can go from toxins to unwarranted stress towards insulin and hormone dysregulation issues or chronic infections. So at the baseline, what we do is really simple. Add the good, remove the bad. But the details are incredibly complex on an individual basis. Here's a couple of examples. This was a lipomic evaluation that we did in a patient who had severe suicidality and depression, had been in several psychiatric institutions, and had been on many, many different medications, and came to us looking for what can we do. And this was not early in our evaluation, but it was in the process of peeling the onion. We found out that she had a very specific nutritional deficiency. And by repleting this nutrient, and this happened to be omega-3 fatty acids, we put her on Monopure 1300, 2 capsules twice a day. And voila, it was one of the most amazing things. This individual had an amazing turnaround in her depression, suicidality, and actually said, "I'm happy." And she said, said I've been happy in over 20 years. So, wow. But, we had been prescribing fish oil for a long time. And she, A, hadn't taken it very much. And then B, was taking a form that really wasn't absorbed and was kind of low quality. So when we we said, hey, there's a real clear need to do this one thing and do it really well and do it for a long time. We got results that were really amazing. This is a patient that had a head injury, ran into a terrible car wreck, and was reduced down from being a very active, loving husband and father to having the mentation of about a 10-year-old, and really a really annoying 10-year-old at that, who couldn't do much for himself. His wife brought him to me, and we did a brain map. And the red spots that you see are evidence of an area where he had his head injury. This is showing a lot of electrical inefficiency. In him, we actually retrained with neurofeedback. So instead of replace, we retrain. And if we notice, see how that red dot has just kind of disappeared? His wife's estimated he had about an 85% recovery. And that was 20 years after his initial brain injury. The brain has amazing capacity to improve and heal. You should never give up on a brain. Never. And also it's just incredibly important. And then with regenerative plasma exchange, this is a new thing we're doing to help reboot dementia. This is a process where we've been pioneering here at the Maxwell Clinic. An individual has their blood pulled out of one arm through an IV. It goes into our apheresis device, which is a big centrifuge. The plasma, which is a liquid part of the blood, is separated, and that's discarded. The cells are then kept and are reconstituted with some extra albumin, which is the main protein in blood. And then that's all returned into the body. And this process has been shown to decrease the progression of dementia, like moderate Alzheimer's disease, to slow it by 60% compared to placebo over 14 months. And in mild Alzheimer's disease, to actually show reversal of the memory loss over those 14 months, to show improvement from baseline. That's astounding. So Replenish, Remove, Retrain. Creating Health is our supplement store that has very highly validated products within it. You need to know that I'm actually the chief medical advisor for the company who makes these products, named Zymogen, and it is and I'm so proud because at Zymogen, we end up throwing away or at least rejecting nearly a fourth of all the raw materials that come to us, because there's unfortunately very poor quality control in the supplement industry. So we know that when you're getting something from Creating Health, that what is in the bottle, or what is on the label, is in the bottle, and nothing that is on the label, and nothing is in the bottle that is not on the label. So we're very careful about potency and purity. But it's very important to remember, supplements are supplemental. What is on your plate is so important and really rules the day. Many of you don't even know I wrote a book. The book is called Curiosity Heals the Human. And the subtitle is How to Solve Unsolvable Medical Challenges Using Better Questions and Advanced Technologies. Inside this book, available on Amazon, there are a multitude of questions, a workbook type activity for you to dig in and ask yourself some better questions to help move you down the path of where may you need to look next to help improve your health, to maximize your wellness. And finally, we're launching Maxwell Care. This is our new way of organizing the care that we deliver to you, so that we have the time available, that we have the team available, and that we have the systems in place to really fulfill on our goal of creating health, to do everything necessary to replenish, remove, retrain, or reboot so that you can experience your Maxwell. And it's just an incredible pleasure to have gotten to be with you tonight. We're going to open up with questions now. And so let me move over and get those taken care of.